And I'm going to let people in. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Enter Zoom meeting. Janelle Terziakos join.
Hi, everyone. I'm just giving it a moment for folks to trickle in, and then we will get started. Thanks for joining us tonight. Just a few more people coming in.
Okay.
And bike lanes on both sides. But the Border Lab makeover is a...
All right. Let's get started. Next slide, Rob. All right, so just a recording reminder for everyone, this meeting will be recorded. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you can excuse yourself from the meeting. Other important notes, your microphone and webcam will be disabled upon entering this meeting, and the meeting will be open to questions and answers after the formal presentations. The agenda for today, we will start with welcome and introductions, then we'll go over Zoom directions. Our co-chair will give the RTAG update, then Laura Brailsford, the Assistant General Manager of System-Wide Accessibility, will give updates. Then Ed Luna, the Director of Bus Network Redesign from the Better Bus Project, will give updates. We will follow that with a feedback session for those two sections. And the RIDE team, unfortunately, was not able to make it to tonight's meeting, but we will still have open discussion for anyone who has any concerns that they want to bring up, and I can relay those as well. And I have a couple of points that were passed on to me that I can share with the group. And then we will finish up the meeting with closing remarks. Our ASL interpreters tonight are Sandy Ligren and Denise Martinez. To view their video, find the interpreter's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses, then click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Our CART captioner tonight is Denise Gracia. To start viewing closed captioning, click closed caption with the CC icon. A tip is to click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, click the upward arrow next to start video / stop video. Click video settings, then accessibility, and you can move the slider to adjust the caption size. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please use the chat function and we'll attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. All right, I am going to hand it over to Nora Nagel, one of the RTAG co-chairs, to give a brief RTAG update on what we have been up to. Go ahead, Nora.
Thanks. Hi, everybody, and welcome to November's Rider Transportation Access Group meeting, also known as RTAG. As many of you know, we're a community-based group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. In the past month, RTAG has engaged in several different advocacy efforts. Last week, the plaintiffs group and members of the RTAG executive board met with system-wide accessibility and MBTA bus operations. We discussed bus operations, operator training, with bus operations leadership. We also spoke to senior management in both groups to discuss the priority of ensuring that riders being able to secure assistance at stations. Just so all of our members understand, in-station customer service personnel are available to assist at most stations during most service hours. For those of you that don't know, they're called transit ambassadors and usually are wearing a red shirt with large T within a circle logo. RTAG members have shared that despite MBTA initiatives to improve the availability of customer assistance in stations, riders still need help to request and receive help when necessary. These ambassadors can help with things ranging from wayfinding, answering scheduling questions, finding bridge plates. And for example, it can be challenging to find ambassadors even when the station is staffed because they may be assisting someone else or fulfilling other duties, or if somebody has a visual impairment, they may not be able to find them. Using call boxes to request assistance isn't ideal for many riders because the call boxes themselves are sometimes difficult to find or may not be accessible or usable for some riders. Some proposed solutions include installing signage telling riders that station personnel are available and how to find them, possibly running an ongoing marketing campaign informing riders of in-station assistance options, using the call center as a possible resource during business hours. Other potential solutions might include SWA's longstanding goal to create a phone line that would connect to OCC and a future component of that MBTA app, which is probably going to be mentioned later, and a customer assistance lead position within OCC, which is Operations Control Center, because I had to ask what that was too. Plaintiff and RTAG members also participated in testing hands-free accessible fare gates in order to better understand how these new gates would work for real riders with disabilities. The new technology would allow riders to pay and enter through the gates without the need to physically interact with them. In other words, you wouldn't have to physically tap your card on a pad. To pay, riders would just carry a hands-free card on their body, bag, or mobility device, and the fare will then be collected hands-free when they pass through the gates. These gates will be the first of their kind, definitely in the US. The RIDE subcommittee has also worked with Michelle's RIDE team to restructure and develop a new working plan for our group. We're focusing on prioritizing initiatives for the upcoming year, including but not limited to the implementation of new transit management software and procurement of non-dedicated service providers, track, and vehicles. We spent our last meeting brainstorming how to provide our best support, and we look forward to the collaboration moving forward. And I'll turn it back to Kat.
Thanks, Nora. I appreciate it. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to turn it over to Laura, the Assistant General Manager of SWA. Go ahead, Laura.
And actually, Robbie, hang out on this slide for 1 second, because I want to start with a quick update that I neglected to build out a slide for. But first of all, thank you. I'm Laura Brailsford, and I'm happy to be with you this evening. My updates are going to be relatively brief because I'll be yielding the bulk of my time to one of my colleagues who's here to talk about a very significant set of exciting changes within our bus network. But I did have 3 things I wanted to update you all on. The first is, as you may have heard in various news forums today, the MBTA just released its very first homegrown app focused on our general services called MBTA Go. This is an app that's been designed in-house over the last year with the goal of providing riders with accurate real-time information on our bus and subway network, as well as information on where stops are located. Over time, this app will be expanded to include lots of additional features, including elevator and escalator, uptime information about where the accessible car in your Green Line train can be found, whether it's going to be found in the front or the rear of the train set, and all sorts of additional features. But for now, it's got a core set of helpful real-time information and stop location features. The first iteration that's out there as of today is for the iPhone. The Android version will be coming in a few weeks.
This technology provides
And then every several weeks after that, there will be updates to the app. So if you've got an iPhone and you're interested in checking this out, you can find the app at anywhere you get your apps. I do want to emphasize here, we worked really closely with the internal team, TID. They were focused from day one on making sure this app would be fully accessible for all users. So they really led the design and development of this software, this app, with accessibility in mind. They also did extensive third-party testing of the app to ensure that it met or exceeded all of the accessibility guidelines that are currently recognized to be best practices. So please, I would encourage everybody here to, again, if you've got an iPhone, download the app, check us out. We'd love to hear your feedback, positive or otherwise. And we'll be incorporating updates as we go and continue to build. All right, next slide. So since our last meeting last month, the MBTA facilitated 2 significant emergency evacuation drills, both of which system-wide accessibility participated in. So for everyone's awareness, at least twice a year, there are 2 drills that are focused on a variety of scenarios in which a train car, one drill is focused on commuter rail, 2 other drills are focused on the subway, needs to be evacuated. And the drills are an opportunity for the MBTA to evaluate its own processes as well as the processes of local first responders who are really essential and critical in actual relief emergencies. So on November 3rd and November 17th, we participated in a drill in Quincy on the Red Line and then one on the commuter rail. In each and every drill, we work to make sure that there are volunteers with real disabilities participating to make sure that we are truly testing all of our trainings and policies around inclusive evacuations. And here I've got to give a shout out to RTAG's very own Tom Gilbert, who is featured in this photo on the right. Had again helped out with the drill in Quincy on the Red Line. So we are currently evaluating all of the findings for both of these drills and compiling that information, which will be used to make further improvements and recommendations to training and procedures. Next slide. And for those that were at last month's meeting, you may remember that we had invited you to join an upcoming viewing of the mock-up of our forthcoming Green Line Type 10 train. And on October 29th and 30th, this mocked-up train was available to check out on City Hall Plaza. There was a huge outpouring of interest. A large number of folks joined us, many people from RTAG and the disability community that were there to check it out. We received over 400 specific comments during 50 including 50 specifically focused on accessibility. We received a mix of both very positive and very constructive feedback. On the positive side, people really liked the fact that these vehicles are 100% low floor. with additional seating areas for wheel mobility users and thoughtfully placed bridge plate request buttons. People also really liked all of the real-time digital panels on the train that are going to make for a much more accessible passenger information system. One concern people raised, two concerns people raised, had to do with the width of the aisleway in certain portions of the train, as well as the depth of some of the seats. So that's feedback that our vehicle engineering team is taking back to figure out how we can further refine the design. Next slide. All right, so to learn more about any of these updates, you can, the best general place to start is by going to our website at mbta.com/accessibility. We always ask people to check out an initiatives report we put out every 6 months, although I'll suggest you hang on a couple weeks because our newest update is going to be out in early December. And you can also always sign up for our monthly email newsletter by going to mbta.com/SWA sign up. There's not going to be an RTAG public meeting in December, but we would love everyone to join us at our semi-annual public meeting focused on our accessibility settlement agreement. That's going to be on Wednesday, December 11th at 5:30. That will be a virtual meeting. And the agenda will include not only an update from the settlement's independent monitor, Judge King, but also presentations from our Chief Operating Officer, Ryan Caholen, as well as an update on our initiative to improve the platform gaps we have throughout our subway system, as well as an update on that hands-free fare gate that Nora mentioned a second ago. So a lot of good topics. If you're able to join, please do. More than anything, we really want to use that time to hear feedback from you and figure out how, what are our top priorities going to be going into 2025. And always, I want to remind people that as you're out in the system, if you run into an issue or you have a great experience or have an idea for us, we really do want to hear from you. The best way to do that is by reaching out to our customer service center. You can do that by calling 617-222-3200 or 711 for relay, of course, or by going to mbta.com and clicking on the support tab at the top of the screen. Or you can always tweet at us at MBTA. Regardless of the method for reaching out, if it's accessibility in nature, my team will track the feedback to make sure that you get an appropriate and thorough response. All right, and with that, I have the pleasure of introducing one of my colleagues, Ed Luna, who is the director of Bus Route Network Redesign, and fittingly enough, is here to talk to us about bus network redesign. Ed?
Thanks, Laura. All right, folks, I am Ed and happy to lead the project management office, proudly charged with implementing the bus network redesign. So we'll start by just explaining what that is. Next slide, please. The bus network redesign started as a planning study in 2018 that eventually led to a reimagining of the bus network in 2022. The core of that network is the frequent route network, which you can see in the diagram on the right here. We're increasing the reach and coverage of that frequent bus network across the bus network. This was informed through an iterative process, including 20,000 public comments. And so we are increasing and adding frequent bus route service, making more and better connections, and improving infrastructure needed to make that service accessible, as well as more reliable. So with phase one, next slide, please. We're getting started. This goes live on December 15th. And so what we're doing here is focusing on 6 routes listed in that first bullet, where we're increasing a total service by 60% from a baseline in 2019 to what we're going to see starting December 15th. We're about 3 weeks from now. And so what that means is we're going to add 4 frequent routes, the 104, 109, 110, and 116, highlighted by that yellow 15-minute icon that you can see on the map and in the legend. What that means is those 4 routes will be scheduled to run every 15 minutes or better, 7 days a week, from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m., including a 6 a.m. start on Sundays. Breaking it down a little bit by route, what this means is for the Route 104 is we are connecting Malden to Airport Station, which creates a new connection to Chelsea and East Boston. And we're very excited about this new service and this new connection over to the airport. The 109 also connects Malden through Everett, beyond where it goes today in Sullivan Square, all the way to Harvard through Somerville, providing connections to the Green and Red Line, whereas it only previously had Orange Line connections. For Route 116 and 117, which today are very similar, and 75% of users, of riders get on and off the points where they converge, we're going to put all of those resources into the Route 116 and make that a frequent route. And folks who used to use the 116 to get to Beach Street will now have a frequent route where we're doubling the amount of service going onto the 110, where those folks will need to make a connection. But so this provides better and more service for Chelsea, Everett, Revere, Malden, Somerville, Cambridge, Alston, Brighton, and East Boston. In addition to that, next slide, please. So beyond just the service change and routing changes, this means that our schedules will be more consistent. That frequent route standard is easier to understand, and you can trust that where you see a frequent route, a bus is scheduled to come every 15 minutes or better. These frequent routes also get snow removal, like the key bus routes. And so we'll be removing snow from those stops along those 4 routes. We're adding, we're building new bus stops, which are just about done with construction along the new segment of the 104 that is covering corridors that are not previously covered. We're improving the transfer experience for the folks who need to make a connection. This is also easier for operators. And perhaps most excitedly, we've updated our signage, which, next slide. Some folks may remember, we previously presented that middle image, probably looks really familiar. So going from left to right, what we have is the legacy sign on the left, which are still out in the network in some places. Then going to the right, we have our current sign, which you see all over the place. It's pretty ubiquitous. The issue with the sign is that all of them, like 100% of them, fail to meet the ADA requirement to use a 2-inch font. They're all about 1 inch in order to fit. So what we piloted and brought to RTAG previously was that middle design, where we used a bigger font to meet the ADA standard and to add an icon that designates a frequent route to make it obvious where a route is a frequent route and you can expect frequent service. Based on your feedback and feedback we got from the public, we further improved the design to the one that says, the second from the right. We've kept the big font. We've made it easier to connect that 15-minute status to a specific route so that there's no question which one it applies to. And we've added a legend at the bottom that explains what that means so that there's no confusion. Also, based on feedback, we've made these double-sided, so you can't see it in the design, but every bus stop sign that we replace for bus network redesign will now be visible from both sides. And so what you have on the right is what you started to see on the streets along the routes that we just covered on that map. What you're looking at is a bag that just covers the new sign, but underneath it, it looks a little bit bulky. You can see that there is a double-sided sign on there. So we're very excited about that simple but important improvement for visibility and readability for our riders. Next slide, please. We're also changing maps. So going from the left to the right, The one on the left is the rapid transit line map, or the spider map that you see all over the place. We are changing the color of the key bus routes to yellow. And we've added, in order to increase the contrast and visibility of them, to make it more obvious to see, there's a black line that goes through the middle. And so phase 1 routes are visible on the maps that you're seeing deployed to rail cars today. And by next week, you'll start to see them at the affected stations. So that's over 600 vehicles and more than 10 stations that will have these. Along the 73-ish bus shelters that are in, along these routes that we're changing, we're replacing the shelters, the maps in those shelters with a new design that also makes it easier to see the frequent bus routes. In affected stations, the neighborhood map, that middle one, that shows where you would walk to within a quarter-mile distance of the station, we're replacing those to show the new service. The berth maps at affected stations are being upgraded. And in some stations, we've had the wayfinding team come up with an exciting upgrade to show a 3-dimensional design, which is a little difficult to see, but that map is 3-dimensional and makes it much easier to orient where you are as you look at that sign to see where your bus berths are, where you catch the bus you're looking for. And the map on the right is just that design that you'll see in shelters. Some of those shelters are managed by third parties, and so this is the template that they use. Next slide, please. This map shows the various capital projects and signage projects that we've taken on and are completing as a part of phase 1. This includes increasing layover capacity so buses have a place to park, but also the transfer experience. So at Dawes Island, where 109 and 86 riders are going to have to transfer, adding a tactile pad and clearing out the bus landing area to make sure that there's a clear path of travel for riders is an improvement we're very happy to see the city of Cambridge completing. And in Revere, at Broadway, Park Avenue, and Central Ave, we've added enhanced wayfinding in order to make it easier to know where to find the buses that you need to get to as easily as possible for the folks making that transfer. There's more in here, including berthing upgrades and the new bus stops, but very excited to see all of these projects come to light. Slide, please. And last, communications and how we're spreading the word. So first, we're replacing the signs, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure every bus stop has accurate signage on the day of launch. We've also put up service advisories along all of those same stops. Those hundreds of advisories give riders the information they need in multiple languages to know what change is coming and when. Our teams are going out right now to do outreach at select stops to let riders know by handing out flyers and explaining the changes. And those outreach on-site or street outreach efforts will increase right through launch and during the week of launch as well. We've also been going to community events and tabling to speak directly where we're invited to share the word with communities and answer any questions. Our vehicles and stations will be making announcements, audio announcements and visual announcements, trying to maximize our reach, including folks who can't see the service advisories. We are aiming targeted ads in rail cars as well as in papers to get that out. We're leveraging T-alerts on the website and the T-alerts email distro for folks subscribed to get information. Our website is being updated along with social media that will be coming online here soon. We're using press releases. And so all that to say, we're trying to hit a omni-channel approach to getting the information out to every rider to ensure everyone knows the changes that are coming and no rider is left stranded or confused. In addition to the team being deployed on the day of launch and the week of launch to help make sure we're available in case there's any confusion on the day of. With that, that's the presentation. I'll hand it back over, and I think we've got some questions.
Thanks, Ed. And thank you, Laura, for your presentation. So now we'll take questions and comments for SWA or the bus network redesign sections. To indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it'll alert us that you would like to speak, and then I will unmute you to ask questions in the order that you raised your hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. If you're using a keyboard, you can click the Alt and Y keys. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And I will begin with Rhoda.
Hello. Um, I have a couple of questions. First off, I am so happy to hear about the new bus route, and maybe I can stop taking Uber to the airport and take the 104 to Mall from Malden to the airport. That's great. But Kat, I would like to I have a couple of Maxidat members that have some issues and stuff, and instead of bringing it up on, because I know there's limited time, um, can I and these members meet with you, and maybe I could send you an email and work out something so that the needed people that should be hearing these issues are on the call as well? Should I send you an email?
That would be great.
Okay, thanks a lot. But I am so happy to hear a lot of these things. And one of the issues was with the ambassadors, and some issues with the ambassadors, which I won't take the time up now to talk about, but when we meet. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhoda. Jasmine?
Hi, everyone. This is my first. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is my first meeting, and I think all these new initiatives that Ed just shared is absolutely amazing. And I had a quick question. So, with now the routes being having more routes be more accessible, does that mean that there'll be more drivers? And what I mean by that is one of the biggest issues I've been having, for example, is I booked a trip where I needed to be somewhere at 7 o'clock, and the the bus needed confirmed a pickup time at 4 o'clock, which you can imagine is a bit. I mean, that's a huge time for me to be riding around the city for a 4 o'clock pickup to be there at 7. And so I haven't been able to really utilize the bus as much, and I've been spending a lot of money on Ubers. So I just wanted to, I mean, I don't know if this is the right place or the right time to be asking this question, but seeing that the roads are being expanded, I'm guessing it's going to be more boots on the ground to be able to get people around where they need to go.
Or speaking for the bus operator headcount, since the new collective bargaining agreement last year, there's been a large uptick in operator hiring. And so that on top of a bunch of other initiatives have really improved the drop trip rate. And so that fewer trips are being dropped than before. And we have the drivers to operate these new routes. So that's not to say that routes won't ever be dropped, but we do have the operators needed to run the routes as scheduled. So that 15-minute promise is not a guarantee that there will never be an instance where a bus trip is canceled and somebody waits longer than expected. But we're seeing great results in operation in the operation restoring more reliable service, and there is the operator capacity needed to cover these routes as scheduled for the December 15th launch. Did that answer the
Okay.
question?
It did. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has any questions for either Laura or Ed?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay. This is for the ride, right?
No, right now we're just talking about fixed route service. We are going to have a section on the ride coming up shortly.
Okay.
Thanks. I know that, oh, there we go. Nora, go ahead.
Hi, sorry about that. I actually wanted to bring up an issue that I experienced over the last couple of days that I find particularly troubling, especially in the light of having met with bus operations people last week. So long story short, Monday morning, I was heading into South Station early to take a train to New Haven, and I was on the 7 and noticed that the stop announcements were not working. And that's a complaint that people have had consistently, and that it seems to be happening more frequently than in the past. I reported it to the driver, who seemed to be unaware, and I asked him to report it. I don't think that happened. I did take a picture of the bus number. And while I was waiting for the train, I made a point of reporting it on the MBTA website, including the picture and my contact information. I haven't heard. And in just a bizarre coincidence, last night, so basically 3 business days later, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, I got on a bus at 5:30 heading into Copley, a different route, which I think is kind of interesting. And I noticed the stop announcements weren't working. It was the same bus. It was the same number. I again mentioned it to the driver, got no reaction, submitted it. Also have a photo, time-stamped, geolocation stamped of both instances, reported both instances online to the mbta.com website and haven't heard. But I find that shocking because it illustrates a multi-level failure. The driver didn't notice, the driver didn't report it. The complaint that was submitted through the website didn't get addressed. When these buses are being checked out before they go into service and when they return from service, it wasn't picked up. And this happened for 3 days. My initial complaint was submitted before 9 a.m. on Monday, and that experience happened last night. And we were told by bus operations, oh, no, when complaints happen, when these things are spotted, they're pulled out of service before the next cycle. And what struck me in particular was that it was put on a different route. And I almost wonder, did they put it on a different route so that it would be less noticeable? I mean, if somebody complained on Route 7 and nobody's complained on Route 9, maybe we could get some extra time with the bus before having it pulled out of service. I don't know. What I do know is that this particular incident, it was just dumb luck that it happened to be the same bus, but it points to a multi-faceted and just total system-wide failure as far as bus operations go with regard to maintaining accessible features on buses. And I'm really mad about it. So
Yeah, Nora, that is absolutely understandable. So we will, given that you filed both of those
And-
are certainly.
and they were both, by the way, mbta.com, they were both flagged as ADA accessibility complaints, and I included my contact information, so they should not be hard to find.
No, and I imagine that we have them in our court to work with bus operations on. So yep, what you were describing illustrates several levels of failure. What we're gonna look at a couple things. One, I think the biggest was that bus turned in by the operator. I will say your potential theory about it being moved to a different route in order to buy a little extra time. I wish that we were that sophisticated to pull that off. That definitely was not a reason that it was moved to a different route, but let us find out what went on. There are rare but occasionally real situations where there is a significant bus shortage where they have to keep buses out of maintenance after an issue's been reported.
One thing, just a point about that. That may very well be the case. And I understand that there was a red line shutdown going on and that there were shuttle buses running out of Broadway. I can totally understand the bus shortage, but this was a known issue. It had been going on for 3 days.
Yeah.
And a person with a white cane got on the bus and the driver was completely unaware, uninterested, and made absolutely no effort to make stop announcements, including landmark announcements.
Yep. So that's exactly what we're going to look at in both instances. What, just from the facts you provided, the driver committed a couple different significant violations of
Both drivers too.
their responsibilities there. And so we'll obviously a full investigation is required, but we will, in both instances, I'll dig into that and follow up with you. I'm sorry. Sorry, you experienced that. That is not okay.
Thank you, Nora, for sharing.
I have a
Rhoda?
question. I have a
Oh,
question.
sure.
The person who mentioned the red line is shut down or whatever, and I
Mhm.
actually really want to know this. How long can any bus or train be closed? Like, do you guys have like a window where they can't be closed for 5 days or 5 months? Do you guys like have a window where no way they can actually be closed for this much hours? Year,
We do.
month. Sorry.
We do, and it's funny that this is coming up because we just had a meeting last week. So in 2017, which is a very long time ago now, but doesn't feel that long ago now. In 2017, a policy was developed with bus operations, system-wide accessibility, and the maintenance leads, bus maintenance leads, to spell out how long a bus could remain in service with any particular defect. And so we went deficiency by deficiency and created a set of guidelines. First and foremost, the guidelines essentially said any deficiency shall be reported and turned in as soon as possible. And if there is the availability of spare buses, that bus will be turned in at the end of its route. However, recognizing particularly back in 2017, so again, remember this is pre-pandemic, very, very high ridership. We were operating with very limited buses at that time. So the policy acknowledged that there will be times when we simply cannot pull a bus from service to maintain it. And that there will be instances where that bus can remain in service. Generally, the maximum amount of time a bus could remain in service was 3 days. There were certain incidents in which the bus had to be removed from service at the end of the route or the end of its stay. So things like incidents that a driver could never mitigate. For example, if the ramp to the bus was completely broken, so that the bus was fundamentally inaccessible, the operator cannot do anything to make that better for a rider, so that bus has to get pulled in right away. Incidents where more than one of the securement areas was compromised, that bus has to get turned in right away. But for other scenarios, such as these stop announcements not working correctly, the operator can and should and is required to make manual announcements. So the policy said if there is a shortage of buses, that bus can remain in service for up to a maximum of 3 days. Which, Nora, we're at a point right now where I don't think, again, we have to investigate. I can't lean on that as a rationale for why that bus remained in service. But that is the policy today. I mentioned we were meeting about this last week because a lot has changed from 2017. So we're beginning to talk about updating that policy based on the fact that there's a whole different ratio of buses to drivers right now. And we may be able to tighten up some of those timelines.
Thanks, Laura. I received a chat before going back to Rhoda. Could your team suggest the best way for an older adult to travel from North to South Station, citing considerations such as fewer transfers, fewer stairs, etc., and if the bus expansion plans would help in this regard? So from North Station to South Station.
If that, I'll take a look at that trip specifically. I don't have it off the top of my head if the end state of the network will have a different set of connections. But if it's for bus specifically and not rail, let me respond offline. So let me just take a look at it, and then we'll send that over email.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Yeah. Mm.
Great. And Rhoda, I'll turn it back to you.
I'm sorry, I don't like asking a lot of questions or statements. But one of the things that I meant to mention before, excuse me, before was that it was brought to my attention that someone, a red shirter, an ambassador, all ambassadors wear red shirts, right? Well, that I was informed that the ambassadors are subcontracted, are subcontractors of the MBTA, so they don't work directly for the MBTA. And it was also brought to my attention that these ambassadors, the subcontractor that they work for, is not following the regulations and what they're supposed to be doing. However, as always, a lot of people, when they see something, they don't say something. When they see something's wrong, they don't speak up. So my question is, if if the MBTA is subcontracting and subcontractor is hiring the ambassadors, but the subcontractor that the ambassador works for is not following the regs and what the MBTA has directed them to do, what can be done, and why is that being happen? Because if I have not personally seen, but it was brought to my attention that there was someone that was lost. I think this person was an immigrant, was totally confused. A person in a red shirt walked right by her, paid no attention to her. Isn't the ambassador supposed to be looking out if somebody it looks like they're lost, or if they're confused, if they're turning around in circles because they don't know which way to go? Or aren't they supposed to be there to help people regardless of whether they have a disability, regardless of the color of their skin, regardless of their nationality?
Thanks, Rhoda.
So, Rudy, the question is the question, because the ambassadors are contract employees, can we still hold them accountable for our policies and procedures?
Yes, and also if the subcontractor that hired that, okay, say I'm the ambassador. If I was hired by this subcontractor and the subcontractor says, "Oh, you don't need to do that," even though it's one of your regs,
Okay.
isn't the person supposed to say, how can that get rectified? And if the subcontractor is not doing what they or not following the rules and regs that the MBTA SWA has put out, what can be done to rectify that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the answer is an interesting one, but the short answer is yes, we can hold them accountable. When we have employees on property that contractors that are not hired directly by the MBTA, we do not have the same ability necessarily to make individual decisions about that employee's discipline or standing within their own company. However, we have a tremendous amount of influence and say over what happens to their employer. Our contract is with their employer, any third-party provider. So whether this is our transit ambassadors or the private bus companies we sometimes need to partner with during diversions, if any of their employees commits a significant violation of our policy, and I should mention here that we monitor them extensively, just like we monitor all of our services, we have very specific penalties we can take against those companies. And in instances where there's been a really significant issue with a particular subcontracted employee, we can, we can really ask that action be taken. It's not up to us as to whether or not that happens. That's their employee, but we can take action against the company, and generally that gets resolved. So absolutely, if anybody here is running to any issue with any personnel out there in the system, whether they're a employee hired by the T or a contractor, we want to know about it, because there is a requirement to do a full investigation, and whoever the actual employer is required to take appropriate action. So please let us know about that.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Rhoda. Any final questions for either Laura or Ed?
How would we let you know about that? Sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand here.
You're good.
Thank you.
So the best way to let us know about any negative experience or positive experience you're having in the system is to call our call center. Can we get that slide back up, Rip? Or if you have access to our website, to go to mbta.com and filling out a feedback form by clicking on the support tab at the top of the screen. Yeah, either route you'll go, you'll have the option to identify the feedback as accessibility related. If you do that, a copy of the feedback will be sent to my team. And we've got staff, Lisa, John, and all of our team focused on making sure that those pieces of feedback are thoroughly investigated and that you're getting an appropriate response. We'll work with whoever the appropriate department is to make sure that it's handled correctly. And just here, I want to say, if you do run into an issue, just like the one Nora mentioned, the sooner you get us the feedback, the better. Complaints can take quite a while to investigate, but the sooner we get the details, the better chance we have of identifying the folks involved. So great question.
Thanks, Laura. All right. So Rob, if you want to go to the next slide, that'd be great. I'm going to give a few bullet points that I received from the RIDE team to share tonight, and they will share more information to me when they have it, and I will send it all out. But they shared that they continue to operate in a positive manner, and their stats are very similar to the past several months. In response to a common theme that was brought up last meeting about background noise when calling into TRAC, TRAC continues to audit telephone calls, and they're pleased to report that out of 13 hours, which equals hundreds of calls of audits, they came across one call that had louder than expected background noise. It was an agent that was in the call center, and the additional noise was from other agents. They're reviewing options to see if this is a sensitivity adjustment that can be made. And they just want to remind people to submit concerns and complaints to customer service. So if you want to go to the next slide, Rob, I believe it's just contact information for us to have in the recording if folks need it. And I will open it up on the next slide to anybody who has any questions or comments for the RIDE that I can share their way, and they will also take a look at this recording, but I wanted to ensure that people still had a public platform to be able to share. So again, if you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it will alert the moderator that you'd like to speak. I'll then unmute you to ask questions in the order that you raised your hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. Using the keyboard, you can click the Alt and Y keys. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And I will begin with Jasmine.
Thank you. Thank you, Nora, who actually clarified where my question should actually have been. Earlier, the question I asked Ed about the drivers and the wait times was actually supposed to be for ride, not for what was previously shown. So what I was saying before is I had to be at a location at 7 o'clock, and I got the track confirmation for 4 o'clock pickup, which means I was going to be riding around in the bus for 2 hours. And so I wanted to understand why is it because there's a shortage of drivers, or I know that there's a 15-20 minute lag time, which I understand, but that was a huge time frame of 2 hours of waiting and riding around in the city in the bus. So I was just trying to understand, how can I alleviate that? Because right now I'm spending a lot of money on Ubers to get around because the bus is taking so much time to ride around the whole city to, pick up everybody along the way, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Sure. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Just to clarify, were you on the van for those full 2 hours, or did you arrive to your location earlier before 7?
I actually canceled the ride after I got the confirmation, and I
Okay.
decided to take an Uber because they said they were going to pick me up at 4 o'clock for a 7 o'clock drop off.
Okay. Okay, great. Yes, I will for sure share that with the team and be able to get a response for you.
Can I
And
just throw something in, Kat? It's Nora, sorry.
Sure.
One of the things that you can try to do, and I never thought this would work either, but it actually did work once within the last month, is you can, once you get the night before you get those pickup times, you can call the Ride Access Center track and ask to renegotiate your pickup time. Tell them, that's bonkers. I'm going for a half an hour trip and you're picking me up 2 hours early. And they can, they'll contact a supervisor, and I think it's a half an hour or 45 minutes or so. They'll make a decision, thumbs up or thumbs down, whether they can renegotiate your pickup time. And it's worth a try.
Okay, I can definitely do that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dora. Catherine?
Hi, it's my first meeting, and I'm actually speaking on behalf of my youngest child, who is a young adult who just started using the ride earlier this year. So you might have gone over some of these things, so just bear with me. Definitely wanted to piggyback on the person who just spoke. I think it might have been Jasmine. That was one of the same concerns my youngest has, that the pickup times can be 2 hours before they're going 20 minutes away. And it makes it really hard, especially in the morning. They're going to be picked up at like 5 o'clock to be somewhere by 8, so it's, I was glad to hear that can be renegotiated, because that makes it unusable. And especially in the mornings when we try to use Uber as a backup with the Flex Uber option, a lot of the Ubers will just cancel. So they end up not being able to make it to work unless they did use that really 2 hours or so early time. So it's definitely been an issue. Just wanted to ask about the inconsistencies, if that's something that we're supposed to expect, or it just is what it is. There's so many variable times and inaccurate ETAs, and differences in how the drivers behave. Like sometimes the drivers will wait a really long time, like 30 minutes for certain people, but then other times they'll leave right away, or either just drive by and not even stop to be picked up. So it just seems like there's a real polarity between how drivers can act. So it's hard to get a consistent, no, is this normal, or should it do something about that? And also with the helpfulness that there's some drivers who barely even speak to them. And then some drivers won't even let them open the door or do their own seatbelt. So for them, part of their disability, they really need the consistency. And we're trying to figure out, is that something that we can provide feedback on, or it just is what it is from that perspective. I do have a few other things, but I can pause there to get any feedback, or I can keep going, whatever makes sense.
Feel free to keep going. This is recorded, so the ride team will see everything, and I'll be able to share all of these comments with them and hopefully be able to get some responses for you.
Great.
So feel free to keep going and share what you'd like.
Absolutely. Another thing is my youngest isn't able to be on Zoom calls. They also don't take calls. And they were concerned about the speech-based only kind of way to communicate. Like you have to do a call or go to the website, and they find the website very cumbersome as well. So I was wondering if there's any text or other options, because usually, they're texting me and then I have to call, and it becomes a whole thing. So we're trying to build independence, and it makes it hard to be independent when they have to reach back to me to, be able to figure out what's going on with the ride when the person's not there. And, so that we end up having to call quite often to figure out where the person picking them up is.
I will chime in really quick. Does your child use the self-service texting feature of the ride?
Did not know anything about that. No.
There is
Okay.
a self-service texting feature that's relatively new that people appreciate for that same reason, and also being able to check estimated time of arrival. There's actually like an even newer version where you can now, like same with Uber and Lyft apps, you can track where your vehicle is. There's a button that you can contact track. So I believe I have your email from you registering, so I can send you over details after this meeting.
That's perfect. It may be, that was one of my questions. Like one time we got this text of a beta app and we were like, this is wonderful. This is exactly. And then we lost access to it. We only had like the one text, and it was like, sorry, didn't mean to send that to you. And like, we want it. How do we get it back?
Yeah, so right now the new feature that they're using with that
Mhm.
visual data is just going to the people who are part of that self-service texting. So I think as soon as you get connected to that, you'll be able to have more access to it, but I'll send you information.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess, and it may be normal, is just the concern about, especially pickup times. They just get pushed back over and over and over again. And it's often over, 30 minutes or 45 minutes later from when it was originally planned. And, in the summer and fall, it's not so big a deal, but when they're waiting outside in the winter, that's a concern. So we're just wondering, is that normal to have, the pickup times being pushed back over and over again? There was also one time when a driver left them and a elderly person alone in the van for over 30 minutes. So they didn't know what to do, so things like that they don't feel like they have a way to voice other than to come to me, and I'll either make a call and do the complaint through the call center. And also, we want to be involved in creating change. Like we just don't want to feel like we're complaining. We want to like, how can we help make this better? So we really appreciate these calls so that we can be a part of that. Because like, I hate that, like, oh, I really don't want to do a complaint. I just want to figure out what our options are. Maybe there's something like the texting self-service thing that you mentioned that we just don't know about. So if there's any way, I guess this is the first step in getting more involved in learning what the options are.
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. That's essentially, the mission of this group is to be able to identify systemic issues. And so have people like you coming and sharing is very helpful for us to make change. So I appreciate you coming. One more question that I have for you is your child on RideFlex?
Yes.
Okay, great. So
Is
yes,
that the Uber Flex? Is that, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and they love that. It just, we need to do some things. Anyway, that's on our end. But it's just in the mornings when they have to use that as opposed to the 2 hour or more pickup time. They find that often that the drivers will cancel, and then again, they're left with no way to get to work. So it puts them in a lot of jeopardy with their job.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Catherine, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I am going to call on Angela next, just because she's not able to raise her hand, and then we'll continue to Rhoda and Debbie.
Thank you. Sorry, can't figure out how to do it. So I'm calling, I wanted to ask about the ride as well. I was downtown this few months ago at a disability forum at UMass, not UMass, Tufts University. And I had scheduled a pickup and I waited and the pickup didn't show up. And I couldn't stay waiting for him any longer on the street. So I went downtown. And then the pickup for me to go back home was pretty much the same. In that I had received a text message saying your driver is on the way. And I could see that the driver was over by, I want to say Mass General, which isn't far from Tufts University. So I went outside expeditiously and I waited. Time went past. There had been no traffic, or there had been slim traffic, and then there was full traffic and still no driver. So I contacted the 222 number, and literally, I think I must have talked to at least 2 to 3 people. And then I had to file a complaint for which I never heard back. And then my main issue is with these types of issues that happen, and I wound up actually taking the T back home, the public train. My question is, number one, how do I make sure that I'm not charged for these things, especially if I'm not getting a ride? And I actually need help with the whole gamut of trying to figure out how to use this service and all the different nuances that I've heard you guys talk about, like Flex and some other components. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah, I can definitely help with that. I'll reach out and help you get connected to some of those resources, and definitely share this with the team as well to get some responses. Thank you for sharing, Angela. Rhoda, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry, couldn't find unmute. Everything that was said so far for these people regarding the ride is all the reasons why I don't take the ride anymore. But the last time I took the ride, when they had me picking me up 3 hours early than my appointment, and I tried to renegotiate, they told me, first off, that they couldn't do it. They wouldn't give me to a supervisor. And this was, I believe it was around between January and March of this year. So it wasn't, not that long ago, but it was, a little while ago. And I thought that Flex was also, if you were on Flex, that they would be able to send a Uber to you or a Lyft. I was told at that point that that wasn't possible because I had booked the ride, not an Uber. And also, going back to something I brought up a few months ago, if you, I've been depending on Uber for all of my, when I need to go somewhere that is a 2 hour or 3 hour bus ride too, different appointments, and to get a wheelchair accessible Uber, all other Ubers can be booked 30 days in advance. Why can't we book an Uber, schedule it for when we need it in advance? I was able to get a referral to get free furniture, but I had to meet the moving van to get it. It took me to get from my house to Reading. I was able to get an Uber in 8 minutes, a wheelchair accessible. But coming back, it took me 2 hours to get back, which I was paying for the moving company for all the time that they were waiting for me to get back to my apartment to unload the furniture, because I could not book an Uber in advance And the first Uber that was sent, this guy picked up, it was a regular Uber, which of course a wheelchair can't get into. So it took me 2 hours to get back home because I couldn't book it in advance. So schedule it in advance. So I still want to know why wheelchair accessible vehicles are still really we're treated like second class citizens. I have places to go. Anybody in a wheelchair, we have business just like everybody else. Why are we being denied this right that everybody else gets?
Sure. Thanks,
And
Rhoda.
also too, the flex program, if they have scheduled something way, you like the woman that had a 4 o'clock pickup, um, but she didn't need to be there at 7 and she canceled it. Why couldn't she have been offered the flex and the flex be sent to her at the time that she needed it?
Sure. Thanks, Rhoda. I appreciate it. I'll make sure that this gets over to the team.
Thank you.
Debbie Malone?
Well, hello there. I'm so glad that I attend all these meetings. I hear things from people that's like, wow. So I'm having a little bit of an issue with my service dog. And I haven't done any complaints recently because it's become so common that sometimes I don't even know if it's an issue or if it's not, because the drivers know me, so they generally will take me with my dog. But a lot of times, if I schedule a ride, many times it doesn't show up on the driver's screen that I have a service dog. Now, I take my dog with me 99.9999% of the time. So it should be an automatic. I shouldn't have to go through this whole thing every single time I schedule a ride. And most of the time, they don't even ask me about my dog. But it should be automatically on there that I have my service dog. It's just getting to be so annoying. And then I have had a couple of times where the drivers are like, oh, it's not on my screen. I got to call. And so they have to call. And yes, it's on my record. But the other part of this is when I go with my husband to his appointments as his PCA, most of the time he schedules it with me with the service dog. He says, a couple of times he hasn't, because I've said, let's try it without and see what they do. Well, if he doesn't schedule it with the dog, they won't take me, which is really ridiculous because it's a legitimate service dog and I shouldn't have to give advance notice for a service dog anywhere in any transportation. That's just my opinion. And I understand you want to make sure there's space and I get that. But he scheduled his doctor's appointments with me as his PCA with my service dog. And so many times they don't even have it on the screen that I have a service dog. And the other day we had an appointment. We got there with no problem with the dog. And then we're going to come home and the driver said, if it was a new driver, they wouldn't have taken you because your dog is not on. And it was funny. You have to schedule it with the dog. I'm like, we did. And it's not on the screen. So the driver said, well, I use my common sense because I've been here a long time. I know if they brought you over to this appointment, then I'll bring you back, but it's not on my screen. So this has become a more common problem. So I haven't done the complaints because it's just been too common. It's just been getting ridiculous. That the service dog is there. It's registered. She's real. I take her all the time. And when we schedule her with the dog, there should be on the screen. Even my own personal ones that I take my ride, I shouldn't even have to worry about it. It should be on the screen automatically. When I take it with Paul and he says my PCA has a service dog, that shouldn't even be a question. It should be on the screen. It's causing problems. I have actually been denied a ride because it was not on the screen that he scheduled with a service dog.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Debbie. I'm sorry that you continue to experience that. I'll make sure to follow up directly on that issue, for sure, because you shouldn't be denied. No one should be denied, but especially with a service dog. So I appreciate you sharing, Debbie.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns about the ride that I can pass over or for Ed and Laura? And if you have any following the meeting, feel free to reach out. I will follow up with the ride on all those concerns, including early pickup times, arriving places very early.
You keep skipping my hand. I put it up like 3 times.
Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. I didn't see it. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the problem that I had once before. I
Sure.
booked a ride and I asked for a van with a lift. And when I got ready to come home, they didn't put me in a van with a lift. They put me in one of them cars again. And this is the second time that I had just came out the hospital and I cannot lift my legs. So if I say van only, van with the lift, why do they keep switching me to this car? And I had a hard time getting in and out of it.
Sure.
This
Yes,
isn't the
definitely.
first time it's happened.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. I'm sorry that you experienced that. I will follow up on that as well.
All right.
Jasmine, you have your hand up again.
Yeah, just somebody else had brought this up about receiving a refund for a ride. So there was one instance where I was picked up. However, I was going to be late, and so I had to get out of the bus on the side of the road and take an Uber back. Just is that considered a chargeable ride, or can I get a refund on that ride?
Okay, yes, I will get an answer for that question as well.
Okay, thank you.
I want to make sure that I'm not skipping anyone else's hands. Debbie, I'm sorry I didn't see yours. Does anyone else have any other questions before I close up? Okay, yeah, and feel free to hop off mute if I didn't see you. I'm sorry about that. Hi, Jared. Do you have a question? All right. So I have several things to follow up on with the ride, such as early pickup, booking waves in advance, and if that's a possibility, service dog notices on your record and needing to have those, and why aren't they staying consistent, and refunds for trips like the one that Jasmine just shared and that were shared earlier in the meeting. And again, this recording will be sent.
Now unmuted.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to unmute. My
Oh, no
God.
worries. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is Elizabeth. I don't have a service dog. I used to many years ago. Back in like the early 90s. And it was never an issue with guide dogs on board with the ride. You didn't have to call the accessibility center to let them know that, you know, you have a guide dog. So when you book the ride, it will be there. My question is, why has that changed? Why do you have to notify them now every time you want to do a ride? Before you do it, you have to contact them to let them know. What has changed? Because if a person has a guide dog, like Debbie says, the guide dog right now is not going away. It's not going anywhere. So that should be automatically on her profile every time she calls to book the ride. That should automatically pop up. So I just want to know, I've been curious about that what's changed?
Russell Andrews had left the meeting.
I think many of us want to know that answer, so I'll make sure to get that question over to them. And I don't know if Ed's still on here, but I know Ed's going to follow up with us as well regarding that route from North Station to South Station. And is there anything else that folks have to say? I want to make sure that I don't miss anyone. And I see Cassandra in the chat said the same thing happens with the cane. I always say I have a white cane and it's never noted on my profile. All right. Great. Next slide, Rob. So we don't have a December RTAG meeting. Instead, we're encouraging folks to attend the Judge King semi-annual settlement update meeting, where we'll be giving updates on some topics that we've talked about in RTAG meetings this past year. And I will send more information out in our newsletter. And Lisa just dropped the link to sign up for the RTAG newsletters in the chat. And I appreciate you all coming and sharing tonight. And I will make sure to follow up with the folks who I said I would follow up on. And Laura, do you have anything you want to say?
Nope, just wanted to say thank you and wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving next week. Great to see everyone tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Are you?
Thank you, Kat.
Kat.
Hi, Kat.
Bye, everyone. Go ahead, Jarrett.
The, the next meeting is will not be January.
So the next RTAG meeting will be in January, and I'll send out dates in advance.
Yes, please send me the email. Please.
Okay, will do. Thanks, Jarrett, for coming. Thanks, everyone.